World. It's here. I used to play this game so much years ago, and I used to watch videos of it, and so much that my brother bought me a copy of the game for himself and I was so excited. I still love the alpha to this day. It's a great game, but the release version is here.
World is mostly a one-man project. The game was developed by Wally, and he had some help from his wife. Pixie helped make models for the game and did some playtesting for him. Development started around 2011 when Wally uploaded the first really early screenshots of the game on his blogspot, until around 2013 where he actually released the game. Unfortunately, his website was DDoSed almost immediately. This must have been the final straw for him, and he unfortunately started suffering from mental issues such as anxiety and depression. He mentions that it sounds silly that the DDoS caused him to go have all these issues, but when you think about it more, that experience must have been really demoralizing. After two pretty minimal, bug fix patches, the update stopped, and rumors spread. He kind of dripped information from his Twitter, and every post was full of people excited to see what the new update would be, including me. I was also really excited for the game. But he never updated it. Until now. It's been 6 years. He's done it. He's releasing the game on Steam. And I am really, really fucking excited. Oh my god, I did not expect it to ever come along. But here we are. But now it's time for the big question.
Will Q World soar up as the accomplishment of the century, or will it crash down as the disappointment of the decade? My name is BlanK, and today we're looking at Q World.
In the passable character creator, you can pick between a handful of cosmetic races and then 4 classes, which are warrior, mage, rogue, and ranger. If you've played a fantasy RPG before, there's no surprises here. I picked rogue because that's my usual class choice in any fantasy RPG, and then you transition straight to the gameplay, just like that. That was really cool the first time I saw it. But right when you hit create, the flaws hit you straight in the face. At the start of the game, most enemies will one-shot you. Yeah, it's an RPG, that's kind of how it's meant to work. But this forces you to grind out extremely specific enemies, or use your really powerful ability to then run away as you wait for the cooldown to refresh. Drops are based on RNG, and equipment from any class can be dropped from any monster, meaning that you can find useless gear that will only sell for pocket change. Unlike in the alpha, the XP system and skill trees have been removed entirely, so you start off with your entire combat kit and all your skills at the start of the game. This is annoying because the XP system rewarded the player no matter what equipment was dropped, meaning combat was always kind of rewarding, and it would let you progress through the game no matter what you killed. With the absence of XP, and by extension the skill tree, combat is a waste of time until you get a worthwhile drop. Skill trees allow you to upgrade your skills, to increase their power, and reduce the cooldown, which helped make combat faster. You still have access to 3 combat skills like in the alpha, but most of these feel like a complete downgrade compared to the alpha, at least on rogue. And, except for Berserker, because Iron Fist is such a fucking fun move. I wish rogue had something like this. But all classes have passives, but there's no way to properly read or understand what exactly they do. For example, Ninja still has their 25 MP and guaranteed crit from dodging through attack passive from alpha, but how is a new player meant to know that? You're not told this. Or that Assassin Stealth charges faster in the shade. Don't even ask me about Berserker's passive, as the game won't tell you what it does. You used to be able to read about the passives in the skill tree, but, I think you get the point. Combat's pacing is now not decided on the player, but on the enemy stats and your gear, both of which you have no control over, and progression is entirely RNG based. This isn't a fun mix. The map is split into regions, which are all different biomes with their own lore and locations to explore and get lost in. There are many parts of regions that are pointless, and some that are a blast to explore, but the game will actively force you to not explore to other regions, as all gear and special items are locked to the region they are found in. Special items being the most confusing part, as this means you have to collect mobility items such as the glider or the boat, which are vital to exploration, again during moments when they would be most useful. I don't quite understand the decision behind this. There's nothing more demotivating than losing progress in a genre that's all about progression and improvement. Every time you're rewarded by the game with a piece of loot, you'll also have to remember you're going to lose that piece of gear no matter what. One exception to this rule are items with a plus suffix. Plus items can be brought across one or two regions away from the region you found it in, but they are extremely rare and they'll still eventually be affected by the region lock. The other exception to the region lock items rule are artifacts. They're permanent upgrades that count as a level up. You find them by completing an extremely strong dungeon in that region. All artifacts do, however, is increase one of your movement stats by such a small amount that it's hard to notice. Only half the stats they can increase are even useful, which pissed me off when I found an artifact that increased my light radius by 0.3 meters, which is literally useless. Artifacts simply aren't powerful enough to feel like it's rewarding to lose all of your gear and move on. All of these turn what could be interesting exploration into a checklist. The gameplay loop forces you to constantly redo the early game progression, and this sure as hell isn't a roguelite, as combat isn't complex enough where outplaying the game without cheesing, kiting, or stunlock is an option, and it definitely isn't a New Game Plus, as artifacts basically don't make an impact on gameplay. This start and restart loop would be justified if artifacts were powerful and or combat related, that it's worth losing everything for it, but right now, it just feels like I'm replaying a short and bland RPG over and over again. You can carry materials across regions and craft region-appropriate gear there, but that requires you to collect the region-specific crafting books to craft higher rarity equipment, which means you have to grind out gear anyway to beat the boss defending them, so what's the point? Also, Assassin has this ability called Poison Vial. It's a new one that they didn't have in Alpha. So I tried it out and it uses up all of your stamina and it puts this AoE on the ground that if enemies go over, they get poisoned. Now look at how much damage it does. Yeah, it's useless. Whilst we're on the topic of combat balancing, there's like this event you can do involving a mana pump where you beat 4 bosses and then this guy in the mech. This guy in the mech, oh my god, he gave me so much trouble. He has a spin move that if you keep dodging through it, you'll get hit anyway, so okay, I guess the best option would be to run away. But I tried doing that and look at that hitbox, Jesus Christ. Though there is a lot to like about the new stuff they've added. At the start of the game, there's this amazing sense of like wonder and discovery as you explore the world and find these interesting landmarks that you may question and then you later gain the tools to access later. Like, I was wondering what these floating islands were, so I went to the nearby city and talked to like all these NPCs, and then this one guy was like, oh, if you go here you get the sky whistle, so I went to the flight dude, and I talked to him, and flew straight there, and I went down, grabbed the item, and I went back, and I got to go to the island. Like, that was really cool, and it made me want to go through and search, like, every nook and cranny of the world. There's more, like, interesting objectives now, like, there was one to defeat a bunch of NPCs that kidnap this one dude, and then you go launch them to the afterlife, and then you save him, and it turns out he's a blacksmith, and he improves the shops nearby so they have higher rarity gear, and that's just, like, really cool. And, like, there's these new dungeons, and they have far more better designs than the old grey corridors from the alpha, and there's more, like, light platforming, and they have, like, a bit more lighting so it looks more interesting, and that's more fun to, like, go through. And the artifact system, oh my god. It's an idea that has an unbelievable amount of potential, with infinite ways to be interesting, but the execution just isn't here. He was so close, and I can see what he attempted to do as well with the gameplay loop, region locking gear so it doesn't feel like you're just going up and up and up. As the alpha, let's be honest, was a fun 3D open world cookie clicker presented as an RPG. And this new system means you constantly have to find new gear, but just like with the artifact system, the execution just isn't here.
Yeah, flawed execution, that's kind of how it's somewhat keyrolled as an experience. There's a lot of ideas here that sound really fun or interesting in concept, but in actual gameplay, they're not fun at all. There is stuff to like here. There's definitely things that I could understand liking the game for, but from playing the alpha for years and years, this isn't really what I expected at all. I expected something more to expand more on what was already built as a core gameplay mechanics and stuff, and not a complete change in direction like it's done here. And I can understand some people liking the beta for its change in core gameplay, but personally, I really don't like Cube World now. I really wanted to like this game when it came out. I was desperately thinking it has to get better than this. It has to, but it doesn't. It stays mediocre. Like Alpha was good, and this feels so different. But if you do like the beta, that's great. More power to you. But this isn't what I wanted at all from Cube World. And even the people that like the game would probably understand that the gameplay is flawed in many ways, and they could probably agree with that. And all Wally needs to do is just change up a few things. There's so many people online saying how to change the game. I don't think I need to explain most of them here, but the big one would obviously be how I just hit my head off the table. Like the artifact system, that's one that could fix the entire game and make it a fun experience, but I don't know if he will even stay around to update the game more. He has shown to make bug fixes during the beta, but how do we know he's going to stay around and not disappear for 6 years? But I guess we'll just have to see. I'm pretty disappointed, honestly. If the game looks interesting to you, I do recommend buying it, but if your first hour and a half is really boring to you, then I'd recommend just refunding the game right there. Whilst, yes, it does get kind of better, you have to remember that you're going to be doing a lot of early game progression as you go through the regions, so if you don't like what's there already, you're going to have to trudge through a lot of it. Cube World unfortunately suffers from confusing game design choices, shoddy execution, and a terrible progression system, but this could be fixed. There is potential here, but that's for Wally to decide. The ball is in your court, Wally. Make your move. Yes! You don't know how many tries this took. Like, all of this. I can't record my voice. This feels so weird. I'll get used to it later.